we're and recognizing that might actually make things a bit better. Our lives are much worse than we tend to give credit for. And in Arthur Schopenhauer's essay on the sufferings of the world, he goes to some length to explain why this is the case. And if you're more of a video person, you want to check out a video making this case, then you can check out my video, Why Our Lives Are Worse Than You Think. That's linked in the description. But in this video, I want to explore a suggestion that Schopenhauer makes in the final paragraph of his essay. And it's one that, if we embrace, it could help us ourselves just a little bit, and that suggestion is this. In fact, the conviction that the world and man is something that had better not have been is of a kind to fill us with indulgence towards one another. Nay, from this point of view, we might well consider the proper form of address to be not monsieur, not sir, mine Herr, but my fellow sufferer. Suchi malorum compagnon de misere. This may perhaps sound strange, but it is in keeping with the facts. It puts others in a right light, and it reminds us of that which is, after all, the most necessary thing in life: the tolerance, patience, regard, and love of neighbour, of which everyone stands in need, and which, therefore, every man owes to his fellow. Now, I recognize, and Schopenhauer does too in this passage, that it would be weird to actually greet each other in this way, and let's be honest, a bit cringy as well. But how could embracing the ethos behind this suggestion improve the world for many of us? Well, I'm going to go through 4 key ways that recognizing our universal bond of suffering could make the world a better place. Before I go into this though, this video is not about the personal pursuit of happiness. If you want to get into how Schopenhauer's work could inform a personal pursuit of happiness, then there are already videos made on that topic, and I'll link some of them in the description. So let's go through these 4 ways, and if I've missed anything, then let me know in the comments below. The first is that recognizing our universal experience of suffering could deepen the compassion and empathy we have in our individual interactions. Understanding that people's behavior is often motivated by just simply trying to avoid pain and suffering could generate in us a more sympathetic response to their behavior. Of course, bad behavior should not go unchecked, but understanding that it can come from a place of hurt might lessen our propensity for overzealous condemnation. Seeing others as fellow sufferers could also go some way to erode superficial hierarchies based on arbitrary features of one's person like race, class, caste, sex, or socioeconomic background. These things are likely not relevant in any given interaction we have with someone, and even less in our moral assessment of the person. There are other ways that Schopenhauer's suggestion here could improve our individual actions, but I think these 2 points capture the fundamental essence at what is trying to be got at here. So let's move on to the less intuitive and maybe more controversial implications. A greater awareness of suffering and the significance it has in our lives might influence how we think about creating new life into this world. Elsewhere in On the Sufferings of the World, Schopenhauer says this: if children were brought into the world by an act of pure reason alone, would the human race continue to exist? Would not a man rather have so much sympathy with the coming generation as to spare it the burden of existence, or at any rate not take it upon himself to impose that burden upon it in cold blood? Now, this might sound really odd to some people, but at the very least, our recognition of the significance of suffering should at least render us more critical of procreation and creating new life. This doesn't mean denying that there are any joys in life, but simply that suffering is worse than pleasure is good, and that we have more of a moral reason not to impose suffering than we do to bestow pleasure on someone. It's hard to give this discussion of the ethics of procreation real justice in this video, so if you want to explore it more, check out some of the videos on my channel, and you'd probably also find it really worthwhile reading the book Better Never to Have Been by David Benatar. But suffice to say that if we really appreciated how much suffering there is in life, we would at least think twice about creating it. The third way is that recognizing the prevalence and importance of suffering in our lives could inform a shift in what we prioritize. In his book Reasoned Politics, Magnus Vinding argues that our politics could be improved by embracing a compassionate and evidence-based approach to the issues that we seek to address, and that the key issue that we should seek to address is the reduction of suffering. This obviously fits quite neatly with Schopenhauer's call for recognizing the universality of suffering. Under this paradigm in politics, tribalism and dogmatism would be revealed to be unproductive and silly, whilst cooperation cooperation, compassion, and following the evidence would hopefully be embraced and result in a concerted effort to deliver effective change. Again, if you want to go into that more, I would recommend reading Magnus's book. This could also manifest on an individual level too. We as individuals may be more willing to give more of our time and resources to those most in need and who we can most effectively help. Or we may just simply reflect on how our own actions cause suffering to others and seek to remedy that. And finally, the fourth way is that if we recognize suffering as being what truly matters and prevalent in our lives, then we shouldn't just stop at humans. Ironically, through considering how humans can address each other in perhaps a more sympathetic way by taking the tone of fellow sufferer, it forces us to actually look beyond humans. Other animals suffer too, often in extreme ways, in systems and industries that are human-made and that the vast majority of humanity are heavily complicit in. Our food, clothing, entertainment, and more depend on the mass breeding and exploitation of other animals in factory farms, laboratories, zoos, aquaculture, and more. Chickens, pigs, fish, and deer are also our fellow sufferers. Understanding this, in my eyes anyway, should lead us to reflect on what suffering of theirs we are responsible for, just as we should do also with what suffering of humans we're responsible for. So those were 4 ways that I saw this ethos behind Schopenhauer's suggestion of us greeting each other as fellow sufferer, if fully embraced, helping to change society for the better. Let me know if I've missed anything in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one, fellow sufferer.